Kareem Hunt struggled a little bit last week. They struggled to get going, to be efficient. And I think that's really going to be a key for this Chiefs offense is to stay. It is obviously for every offense, but I think especially with the Chiefs, the way they're constructed right now, and the way this Bills defense is constructed, stay out of those third and longs, get into these third and manageable situations for Patrick, where you can really take advantage of Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins in the middle of the field against this defense.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome back to KCSN's 5 Things to Watch, where different personalities from KC Sports Network give you 5 different things that you can watch for in the Chiefs' upcoming matchup with the Buffalo Bills. 5 Things is presented by Batchelder's Family Farms. You can now order Batchelder's fresh farm-raised products online with just a few clicks. You don't have to be right there. You don't got to drive in. Nope, just a few clicks. You can also go and find their bison at the Overland Park Farmers Market and the River Market on Saturdays when they sell their pasture-raised beef and bison, jerky, and eggs. Finally, you can visit their farm store for the freshest cuts and other locally sourced products Wednesday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 20810 South Prospect Avenue in Belton, Missouri. That is Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 5 at 20810 South Prospect Avenue in Belton, Missouri. I can't wait to get back into town so I can shoot on up there and get some nice beefs. I also will order online. I am joined right now. You might be a little surprised. I have Matt Hamilton here with me. We are going to give you guys 2 things to watch before we bounce it around the rest of KCSN. First, I got to ask Hamilton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a great day. Really excited for this game. I mean, this is the NFL, I think, game of the year on this regular season slate. So super pumped up for it.
Yeah, we were there when we got the big Chiefs versus Bills. It's a big matchup every single year. It usually comes a little later in the year, so it kind of being around the midway point is a nice change up. Keeps it fresh. So we're going to jump right into it. And our first thing to watch, I think we are going to go with the Chiefs run game kind of getting back on track versus a Buffalo Bills run defense that has started to show some cracks this year. This Buffalo Bills run defense in the past has been very good. This year, it seems a little bit more uneven, a little bit shakier this year. So what have you seen kind of from this Bills defense or Chiefs offense that makes you think the Chiefs can get that run game clicking once again?
I think missing Matt Milano this year has been a huge deal for the Bills, both in coverage and against the run. And we see them make some big splash plays against the run. Like Ed Oliver will get back there and mess some things up sometimes. But there have been some huge running lanes created. They are 3rd worst in the NFL as far as yards per carry against right now, allowing almost 5 yards per attempt on the year. They have played some elite running backs, though. They've had to face Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor last week. So some of that is because I think the quality of competition has been really high against them. But there are some cracks there. And I think for the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt struggled a little bit last week. They struggled to get going, to be efficient. And I think that's really going to be a key for this Chiefs offense is to stay. It is obviously for every offense, but I think especially with the Chiefs, the way they're constructed right now, and the way this Bills defense is constructed, stay out of those third and longs, get into these third and manageable situations for Patrick, where you can really take advantage of Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins in the middle of the field against this defense.
And this Chiefs run game had been very efficient all year long. They've been very successful. They've been doing a good job staying ahead of the sticks. And so it looks like they finally dropped to 2nd in the NFL in rushing success rate after a rough, last 2 weeks kind of, although it did come alive 2 weeks ago against the Bucs in the second half. But last week, the Chiefs run game kind of struggled. They got forced to bounce some runs outside, and they were kind of going east and west a little bit more than they're used to. And so you don't want to see that happen again. Now, I do think the good news is this Bills defense, they have a propensity to make some plays in the backfield, but they are giving up a lot of yards per rush. Like they definitely are leaving rush lanes to be found and to be had. And while Kareem Hunt maybe not be giving huge dynamic plays, he does have good vision. He does a very good job of finding where space is and starting to get into it, falling forward through contact. So the entire goal of this Chiefs rushing attack is just to help keep them ahead of the sticks. And this is one of those games where I think that you are going to continue to see that trend, right? They are going to want to pick up those 3.333 yards every single play. And the Bills are a team that you can do that against, especially if they continue to their trend of playing as a very light box, sticking to their nickel personnel. You might get some good fits, some good angles for this Chiefs run game, especially when they get into their power, their counter runs that we've seen throughout the year, where they might be able to take advantage. I did want to ask you too, like the Chiefs offensive line in terms of just run blocking played a so-so game against Denver. It was clearly not their best. Do we think this is a kind of a pretty good matchup, especially for those interior guys to lean on this Bills interior defensive line, start to showcase that muscle a little bit and really clear the path and make it easier for Kareem Hunt?
I do think so. I do like this matchup, and as I said, like you'll see Ed Oliver make some big plays. You'll also see him get a little undisciplined at times, trying to make big plays, and that's where some of those seams get created. So I do like the matchups, and as you said, it's not, we don't need Kareem Hunt to be a big like rushing yards over expected guy. Just get the yards that are there in front of you, and keep this offense ahead of the chains.
So I wanted to ask you for a quick prediction here. Kareem Hunt rushing yards on this game. I am going to set it at, let's go 75.5. We going over or under?
I'm going to go over because I think the Chiefs don't, I think they stick with it. They haven't really deviated from the game plan, which is to establish the run, lean on this run game. So, even when it hasn't been as efficient as maybe you would like, they still do it. I think they stick with it. And I think we do see Kareem have an efficient day and break a couple. So I think he goes over that.
Perfect. I agree with you. Kareem Hunt's gone over that number 3 times this year, under that number 3 times this year. So this is the make or break time for that 75.5, which is a random number I just made up. All right. So that was our first thing to watch. That's the offensive side of the ball. Since there's 2 of us, we're giving you number 2. And now we're going to jump to the defensive side, and we're going to stick kind of similar, kind of adjacent here. We're going to go with the linebackers, how the Chiefs linebackers are going to be able to handle this, not just the Buffalo Bills running game. Actually, specifically, we want to look at the linebackers and how they are going to handle the Buffalo Bills passing attack when Josh Allen starts to scramble, when he breaks contain, plays start to break down a little bit. How important is it going to be for these Chiefs linebackers to stay on point and be ready for those situations?
Yeah, it's going to be the key to this game, I think, especially when you look at the injuries that the Bills are dealing with in their wide receiver room or in their passing game. Because right as of our recording this, Keon Coleman is out, Dalton Kincaid hasn't practiced, Amari Cooper is limited with a wrist injury. He's missed a couple of games, so really, it's Khalil Shakir as the threat in this passing game. We don't know what else is going to be out there, and we saw it last week against the Colts. It was their big plays were generated for Josh Allen scrambling and taking off, and Josh Allen scrambling and extending plays and finding guys downfield. So you really got to plaster to these receivers when he gets outside the pocket. But yeah, the DBs are going to be doing that. That means the linebackers are really going to have to be responsible for preventing Josh from getting big plays with his legs. And the last time these two teams met, that was a difference maker for the Bills offense. Josh had 12 carries for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. They really leaned on his legs, and that's something we've seen Joe Brady do when the passing game's struggling a little bit. In big games, he will try to get Josh Allen's legs going. So I think it's going to be a huge factor here. And if the Chiefs can keep him under control, try to contain him to the pocket as much as possible, assuming the Bills are still going to be a little banged up, I think it's going to be really hard for them to generate consistent offense.
For sure. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because the last time the Chiefs played the Bills, the 2 big things kind of really stood out over their past couple matchups. How you handle Josh Allen scrambling, and breaking contain. What are you going to do? Obviously, there's going to be a combination of zone coverage, spies, contain rush. There's going to be a lot of different things the Chiefs throw out there, but he still consistently hurt the Chiefs. And what makes Allen extra unique is he can throw the ball anywhere on the football field when he's out scrambling. He can be 1 foot hanging over out of bounds, and he can still throw the ball 30, 40 yards downfield and has no qualms with doing it. So the secondary, the second level, everyone's got to be on the same page on who's crashing, who's coming downhill towards the quarterback on the move, who's sticking to the receivers, who's staying assignment sound versus who's going to force the play out of Allen's hands. So there's a lot of communication that has to be happening. A lot of guys have to be on point. And then another thing that makes it extra hard for these linebackers, the Bills do like to run the ball a lot this year. They've got a lot of their play action bag. And last year we'd seen it. They used their running backs in particular to attack the Chiefs' second level. They attacked Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil. They attacked these guys with the running backs out of the backfield, the tight ends off of play action. Are they up for not only handling Allen scrambling, but also the play action game? So this is one of those big games where if you're trying to get, Drew Tranquil just got paid for the Chiefs. Nick Bolton's coming up on the end of a contract and is going to want to get paid in the very near future. Can you have a big game in this moment where I think there's probably only one or two matchups in the NFL that are more important for a linebacker to play their best game than it is this version of the Bills and Josh Allen?
And that is the biggest difference that Joe Brady has made since he took over as the offensive coordinator late last year is that commitment to the run game. And we hadn't really seen it in the past from the Bills. They were quick to abandon it, even with Brian Dable. And Joe Brady's been really committed there and building the passing game off the run game. I think that's why we've seen Josh Allen have more success since he took over, cut down on the turnovers, things like that. But it's a great point too, because Josh's ability to just throw it anywhere on the field from anywhere. It was one of the things with Up and Adams. We talked to Dalton Kincaid this summer about it, and he was like, the biggest adjustment I had to make is like Josh would be outside the numbers, rolling to his right. I'm backside, outside of the left hash still, and that ball's coming, I got to be ready for that ball to find me, and just keep my head on a swivel and be ready for the ball to come to me at all times. Even if I don't think I'm open, even if I think I'm out of the play because I'm too far away from him, he's going to find you. So, that's something that, the Chiefs know all too well and are going to have to be prepared for.
Big challenge for the entire Chiefs defense, but in particular linebackers who are going to be pushed, stress test all game long, whether planned or on broken plays. So big game for those linebackers. That's been two things from us. Now it's time to head over to Tucker and Matt, and they're going to talk a little about the gravitas of this big matchup between the Chiefs and the Bills.
Beef of the week here on 5 Things, presented by Batchelder Family Farms and KC Buffalo Company, repping the hat today. And look, you guys know on this segment, I got to talk about Batchelder Family Farms, and I got to talk about KC Buffalo Company this week with the Chiefs heading to Orchard Park, putting their undefeated record on the line against a hot Bills team, and you can get some bison meat for your tailgates this week. And if you want to try bison, don't know what to try, they've got the perfect bison beginner bundle for you. $100 gets you a pound package of ground bison, a pound of bison breakfast sausage, a package of bison steak burgers, a bison ribeye, 2 bison strip steaks, bison summer sausage, award-winning bison summer sausage, I should say. Very good. Right. And 1 old-timer beef jerky. You can head on over to batchelderfamilyfarms.com, or look, even better, head on over to their store in Belton, Missouri, 2810 South Prospect Avenue, Belton, Missouri. You can get that stuff in your possession immediately for your tailgates as the Chiefs take on the Buffalo Bills. And look, the beef of the week this week is pretty self-explanatory. These two teams have a history. These two teams have a beef. But Matt, maybe one team has a beef more than the other one does.
Yeah, I would say the team that has the bigger beef is the team that constantly loses to the other one in the playoffs. And that would be the Bills, who, listen, have had plenty of success in the regular season against Kansas City. They've won the last 3 matchups. They've won 3 of the 4 matchups between these two quarterbacks in the regular season. But they are 0-3 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. They can't beat them, whether it's a 13 seconds game or Tyler Bass going Scott Norwood or just getting absolutely annihilated in the AFC Championship game. They haven't been able to crack the code now. This game's up in Buffalo, and the Bills, I think this is a weird spot in one way, and I think the Chiefs are going to be ready for this game. But the only thing I will say is this game is more important for Buffalo. It just is. If the Bills are going to win the division easily, but if they lose this game, they have no shot at the 1 seed. They're 3 back at the Chiefs. The breaker belongs to Kansas City. The Chiefs would have to basically lay down the rest of the year. If the Bills win this game, the Chiefs are still the favorite to be the 1 seed, but there's at least a real world scenario where, okay, maybe. So it is bigger, but on the flip side, I do think the Chiefs are going to be motivated in this game. It's a rivalry game.
Absolutely.
It's a primetime game, essentially. And they know what we know. If they win this game, they are in unbelievable position. So, I expect them to come out and play hard. And I think they're not going to hold a hell of a lot back, man. These teams know each other so well.
Right.
When they play Houston, that's one thing. I could see them just kind of going vanilla. And they see the Bills every year. like twice a year most years. It's like a divisional game. I expect that they will roll out some of their better stuff because they're not going to care if Buffalo sees it.
It certainly is one of those games that you do feel like the Chiefs are going to get up for. They've had a few games recently where it doesn't feel like they've had to get up for them, right? Obviously, Denver was one of them you didn't feel like they had to get up for, and they really didn't, as you mentioned on that football show, get up until about halfway through the fourth quarter to take the lead in that game for the first time. So this is a game I think they're going to kind of have to be on their P's and Q's. Buffalo's playing hot. They're hot right now. They're coming in with a 5-game winning streak. I think that they haven't played a whole lot of huge competition in those 5 games, though. This is a Buffalo team that's off to their best start since '93, which in that year was not very good for Chiefs fans to remember. But look, tides have changed recently in terms of how everything has gone down for the Kansas City Chiefs and their fortunes like that. So I do think it's a team right now where you look at it, you think that there's a lot to like if you're a Chiefs fan and you look at the matchup wise in terms of how it goes down. But I think you hit the nail on the head. This game means more for Buffalo, and I think that you feel that. I think that's felt in just like the lead up to this game is that it feels more for Buffalo, for the fans of the Buffalo Bills leading into much more than the Chiefs fans. Like a lot of the Chiefs fans that I talk to that we interact with on KC Sports Network, they're like, yeah, you know what? The Chiefs lose to the Bills in the regular season. That's kind of just what happens. And then they beat them in the playoffs. So there's no ill will really in terms of towards Bills fan there in terms of from Chiefs fans.
And look, the 5-game win streak, as you mentioned, the Jets, Titans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts. All right. I don't know. It's fine. The Bills are going to be really tested these next 4 games. Chiefs, Niners, Rams, Lions.
Mm.
Okay, and they have a bye after the Chiefs game. So this next month or so, you're going to really find out quite a bit about the Bills. Listen, I think the bottom line of this game is for the Chiefs. I would characterize this game as an opportunity.
Mm.
They don't have to win it. They don't win it, they're fine. But it's an opportunity to win it and really put themselves in a position where they're going to be the number 1 seed. And then all that's left in the regular season is to talk about gearing up for the playoffs and can this team go 17-0? Because that will be the conversation. If they win this game, the second the final gun sounds, the conversation about this is immediately, can they go 17-0?
We'll see. That's our beef of the week this week on presented by Batchelder Family Farms and KC Buffalo Company. Go get their beginner bison bundle. You get a package of ground bison, a pound of bison, a breakfast sausage, a package of bison steak burgers, a bison ribeye, 2 bison strip steaks, 1 bison summer sausage, and an old timer jerky there from KC Buffalo Company at Batchelder Family Farms. Go ahead and send it back to Maddie for more 5 things.
Perfect. Thank you, fellas. It's a big game. Big game every year. No more important than this year for both sides. Maybe a little bit more so for the Bills this week. We'll be right back with 2 more things to watch right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Welcome back, guys. We're in the middle of KCSN's 5 Things to Watch presented by Batchelder's Family Farms. We have talked 3 things so far. Now it is time to head over to Benny's picks and figuring out what things we want to look at this week for this big matchup.
Maddie, appreciate you, sir. What is good, everybody? Great to be back here on 5 Things as we talk about our underdog plays for Week 11, the most hyped up game, I think, of the season to this point between the Chiefs and the Bills. Maybe you can make an argument that Week 1, Chiefs and Ravens, was on that level, but given the fact that Kansas City is an underdog, for considering the circumstances. There have only been 3 other teams in the Super Bowl era that have been an underdog at 9-0 or better. In fact, the last team in this spot was the 2013 Kansas City Chiefs. They were an underdog against Pittsburgh, and then you go back to 1990, the Bears against the Dallas Cowboys, and I think 1970 was the last time. So 4 times in history with, I believe, the underdog, the undefeated underdog, going 3-1 straight up in those games. So will that be Kansas City this week? We'll have to see. Plenty of coverage here on KCSN, but let's dive into our underdog plays. And if you haven't signed up for Underdog, there is still plenty of time to do so. There's still plenty of football left to be played. Remember to use that promo code KCSN. You can score up to $1,000 in bonus cash on your first deposit. Plus, new users get a week 11 free pick, which this week it is Aaron Rodgers to go higher than 0.5 total yards. Has Aaron Rodgers been bad this year? Yes. Has he done better than 0.5 total yards in every game? Yes. So, win-win for even somebody like Aaron Rodgers, and a win-win for you if you hop on board with Underdog. So let's go into our betting and the buy-ins for this week. 2-1 last week. Let's keep things going here in week 11. We're going to start on the Bills side and go with a play that maybe has a little bit higher variance, but the payout over on Underdog is actually going to be substantially better than just a traditional higher or lower. And that's Josh Allen to go higher than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. This is a pure volume play for me, because if you look at Josh Allen's history against Steve Spagnuolo's defense, he's averaged more than 10.1 rushing attempts in those games. He's averaged more than 56 rushing yards per game, and he's found his way into the end zone in 4 of the 7 games that he's played. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, then why shouldn't I just go with Josh Allen rushing attempts or Josh Allen rushing yards? You can, but I like the opportunity to get that higher payout given the volume that Allen is running, particularly against Kansas City when these games tend to be high scoring. They tend to be back and forth. In fact, in his last 5 games against Kansas City, those numbers have actually been amplified even more. Allen is averaging 11.2 rushing yards per game. In his last 5, he's gone over double-digit attempts in all 5 of those games. To me, I think if you're playing the number sets up even better when you're putting these picks together to capitalize with Josh Allen and factor in the Dalton Kincaid, who's probably the Bills' #1 red zone target in the end zone, their tight end. Kincaid might be out this week as we're recording this segment today. So maybe an opportunity for Allen to put it more on his own shoulders to get into the end zone. Regardless, I think the play for me on the Bills side is to go with somebody like Allen, who's going to have the ball in his hands constantly as the quarterback, as a running threat, and as somebody to sniff out the end zone. So Josh Allen over 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns, like the higher there. Next on the list, another Bills play is James Cook, and I'm going to go lower than 59.5 rushing yards. The Chiefs, if you look collectively at their defense, we know that their defense has been good all year. Maybe the numbers the last few weeks don't look great, but as a whole, the Chiefs' run defense has been pretty elite in slowing down opposing running backs this year. According to Fantasy Pros, the Chiefs have allowed the fewest yards per carry in the NFL at 3.17 yards per carry, along with the fewest total carries per game. Now, there's a few different reasons for that. They've obviously had the lead late in pretty much all of these games. They're undefeated on the year, and teams are more likely to have to pass to try to keep up with Kansas City. And the Chiefs also, because of their injury issues on offense, have been playing a more slower bully ball type of football than the big explosive plays that we're used to seeing. So Mahomes is on the field longer. The offense is on the field longer. And teams just don't have that much time to be able to actually establish their running game. Now, Cook has been really good all throughout the course of the season. He cleared this number against Kansas City the last time they played. But again, look in totality. Yes, he hit that number, but it was only by 1.5 yards, and it took him 18 carries to do so. And that came against a run defense unit for Kansas City that was significantly worse than this year. So with Cook, I still think he's a viable fantasy play, but I like him probably more so as a passing game threat and still someone to get maybe double-digit carries, but that 59.5 feels a tad bit too high. I like the lower there for 59.5 rushing yards for James Cook. And then the last one on the Chiefs side, Kareem Hunt. Familiar name if you guys have been with us here on Five Things over the last few weeks. You've been on the lower side for me the last few times. In fact, last week, both in the newsletter and also here on Five Things, I talked about fading Hunt by way of his total rushing and receiving yards. The rushing yards play was there. The problem is that on the receiving yards, he went from having 5 total catches in his first 4 weeks to having 7 last Sunday against the Broncos. So I'm going to go back and fade him again this week, going lower than 14.5 as his longest rushing yards carry. The snaps are there, the action is there, and the yards total up, but I just don't buy him breaking off that big run against Buffalo, which is also an improved run defense this year. He went back to his trajectory of around 3 yards per carry. In fact, it wasn't even that good last week against Denver. yes, he's tough to bring down. There's always the possibility that he breaks off a long run, but even still, maybe it's a 10, maybe it's 11, maybe it's 12. To get to 14 and a half, he needs to get to that second level and really establish himself. And while he's done it in the past, again, collectively with those numbers, it just doesn't set up for Hunt to be able to break off another big run. Maybe I'm proven wrong for the third week in a row, but I'm going to trust the numbers here on Kareem Hunt. So again, for our 3 plays over on Underdog Fantasy, I like the higher for Josh Allen to go 0.5 rushing receiving touchdowns, like the higher there. James Cook, I like him to go lower than 59.5 rushing yards. And last but not least, Kareem Hunt to go lower than 14.5 for his longest rush yard carry. That is going to do it here for our Underdog plays. Again, remember to use that promo code KCSN when you sign up. You get your free pick, which is Aaron Rodgers, 0.5 total yards. You can go higher on that, and also a first-time deposit up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Good luck this week. Enjoy the games. And Maddie, I will send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Benny. I wrote all those down. I got those. And finally, we are close to 5 things out here with only weird games. Like always, they are going to talk a little bit about how the Chiefs' defensive line can help contain and slow down this Bills offense, in particular, Josh Allen.
Thank you, Matthew. It's the 3 of us from Only Weird Games to talk about the front 4, 5, sometimes 6 from the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I actually do want to kind of focus in on the defensive line a little bit here, fellas, in regard to what the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen are going to be bringing to Sunday's game. He's a very unique type of quarterback on a variety of levels. We know his physical tools, both the arm and the legs. But also, Nate, he's really come a long way as a processor and as a guy who is truly playing the quarterback position while also being one of the most amazing athletes to ever play that position. What's it going to look like for this Chiefs pass rush trying to contain, corral, speed up Josh Allen? What would you even have their first priority be?
Yeah, I think what Chris Jones said on Thursday is really interesting, Josh, where he said we have to keep him in the pocket. You know, it's gotten to a point now where when he extends plays or chooses to scramble, it's gotten to a point where it's almost like Patrick, like you're not gonna in the play well. You're just trying to limit how explosive the play is going to be, whether he's throwing it over your head or obviously, scrambling for additional yards and maybe stiff arming somebody. I said on Only Weird Games, like he's playing the quarterback position about as well as we've ever seen him play. He's actually limiting the mistakes. So from a defensive standpoint, I don't know how much Steve Spagnuolo really wants to blitz Josh Allen, because the more you speed him up, if he doesn't give you the occasional mistake or two, it could lead to him running free against, man coverage behind blitzes or certain areas being vacated. This to me is another sign that, like, if Chris Jones knows what the game plan is, and if they got better in the second half in the divisional game last year, that means Chris needs to sort of collapse the pocket from the edge, which he did quite a bit in that playoff game. He obviously needs to take on double teams. But I'm sure, to you and Seth's point, somebody else has got to win. We don't assume that, there's not the belief that Charles Omenihu is going to be available in this game, as he obviously has his sort of run up to return to play off the ACL. So whether that's Joshua Uche or George Karlaftis, or who knows, maybe even Tershawn Wharton gets, the better of the interior in one-on-one opportunities working off Chris Jones. It's got to be Chris Jones and somebody else, because I'm not sure the blitzes that have usually worked against Josh Allen will work this time around.
Seth, what have you seen from Allen? Who do you like to try to get after him?
With Allen, you're able to get to him with blitzing at times. It just all depends, right? If it's stuff he's seen before, and Spags, I'm sure, will present him with some stuff. When you do blitz him, generally speaking, I'm not a fan of blitzing him with linebackers, because in terms of athleticism, oftentimes they can't stay with him. In terms of, like, he can run away and get the angle from them, or he's able to just elude them long enough to maybe get the ball off. It'd be interesting with Leo because of his closing speed. It'd be interesting. Drew Tranquil's a great athlete, but I'm more, if you are going to blitz him, you want to try to get that free runner, and you want it to be someone who can close fast, even when he starts to run. You need someone who can run him down. But of course, then you've got a guy half his size trying to bring him down. And so you've got to finish. He's like Mahomes. Just because you've wrapped him up doesn't mean that ball's not coming out. You need to finish. In terms of getting pressure with 4, Nate hit it. Someone else has got to win their one-on-one reps. And you've got to do it. You got to do it within your rush lanes, or you're just giving up gaps. The Chiefs have never loved spying quarterbacks. They don't do it as often as they could. Instead, what they usually do, you'll see them do is they'll drop like their linebackers into shallow zones and then kind of act as a spy because they're coming up. So I expect to see a lot of that. I would love to see. It's just his change of direction is not great. But I would love to see Leo put in position to try to run down Allen a few times. He's become a much more disciplined guy when put in that position this year, going sideline to sideline. And he does have good sideline to sideline speed. And he's a guy who can bring Allen down in open space, who can finish the tackle. So it's really going to come down to, can someone else win some of the one-on-ones and do it in a way that's fast and under control to where you're not just flying by.
We talked a little bit more about Chiefs Bills and a lot more about everything else currently swirling around the team on Thursday's edition of Only Weird Games. We're back to break down the latest edition of Chiefs Bills on Tuesday. In the meantime, to spend a little more time with Maddie Lane.
Awesome, guys. Good. That is going to be key. I can tell that's going to be key here. So that's it. That's 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got all different things you can watch for this game. Thank you guys for watching KCSN's 5 Things to Watch, presented by Batchelder's Families Farms. As always, as soon as the game is over, and I mean as soon as the final score goes, those clocks hit 0-0-0, we are going live on YouTube at KC Sports Network. Come join us for the post-game show, win or lose or draw. We will be there. We appreciate the support, and we hope to catch you guys there as the game ends.